Prospect Podcast. I'm your host, Ryan Roberts, taking you a deep dive into some of the fantastic prospects across college football, regardless of level of competition. Joining me is a potential 2023 NFL draft prospect, could also be 2024, Mr. Tucker Kraft, who is a star tight end out of South Dakota State, coming off of a fantastic campaign in 2021, nearly 800 yards, 6 touchdowns, 65 receptions for a really talented South Dakota State team that, whether you're talking 2022 NFL draft, 2023 NFL draft, and beyond, it's going to be a lot of football players playing on the NFL level. Tucker, first and foremost, man, appreciate you for hopping on. I know it's early where you are, kind of like I said before we started, but excited to get one of the best tight ends in college football on today, man.
Yeah, no problem. It's not that bad. We got conditioned this spring into getting up at about 4:45 for our summer workouts or our spring workouts, things like that. It's just the grind, and then your body gets used to it, and you're up before your alarm anyway. So,
yeah. Well, I know I wanted to kind of take you on like a little bit of a journey, obviously, throughout your career. But you just mentioned grind a little bit, man. So I wanted to ask you just about obviously, last fall, not this past fall season, the fall before, obviously, the season for most are pushed back into the spring. So you went right from spring football, then getting back into this past fall. I mean, talking about grind, man, I know there's not obviously a lot of rest on the body, kind of getting back to things really quickly. Can you talk to me just a little bit about the grind, maybe of going right from spring to fall, and just maybe how weird it was or fun? I don't know, like what your perception of it was.
Yeah, it's like the worst part of it all was we were in the national championship, and our quarterback, Mark Gronowski, tore his ACL. So we got in the portal. We got another quarterback, Chris Oladokin, and he did a great job for us. But I'd say the biggest part, obviously, was injuries. You got a lot of guys with some dings, and they took the better part of their summer rehabbing those injuries rather than being with the team and being healthy and doing all the strength conditioning and the stuff that's going to get you bigger, faster, stronger. So as long as you were healthy and you felt good, your body felt good going into the summer, then you were pretty solid. And I was one of those guys that was pretty fortunate. Although I did pick up an injury, a pretty good ligament sprain in my left knee when we played UNI at the Unidome. I was only out for about 4 weeks, so I was able to come back and I was able to rehab and get healthier throughout the season while playing. And then so the summertime, it was just like another area for me to get better. But yeah, and then in the fall, when you play combined total of almost 30 games in one calendar year, that puts a lot on your body. So I was definitely feeling it towards the end of the fall. But that was my first actual fall of football.
Wow.
That was the first fall of football I had played since 2018 when I was a senior in high school. So because my redshirt year. But the previous fall, that was a grind for sure. I mean, we were letting each other up in pads just about every other day. We were trying to simulate game speed reps in the fall because although FBS did have a fall season, we did not.
Yeah, I know I mean, there's so many. I feel like we could spend like an hour just talking about like all the repercussions and ripple effects of everything that's kind of been happening, man. But I wanted to kind of start, I guess, not start you out because we're a couple minutes in here, but kind of go back real quick. I obviously did a little deep dive into just a little bit of your recruiting stuff. I know Timberlake High School. I looked up and, man, you were to say that you played a lot of positions is kind of an understatement. I saw you had some impressive numbers as a running back, middle linebacker. I even saw you may have been the punter for the team, and I think you played a little bit quarterback. Can you take me just through a little bit of the experience of playing at Timberlake? I know you played a lot of positions, and just kind of your recruitment in general, if you could.
Yeah. So yeah, I'll just start. My freshman year, I didn't really get up on the field that much. Even though we played on a 9-man roster, we still had like a lot of guys who gave it their all and liked to play football, and we never had problems filling up a bus. But like towards the end of my freshman year, I was just a special teams kid, and I played a lot of DN when I did get in, DN and like backup Q, but that wasn't really anything special. And then my sophomore junior season, I was like quarterback and defensive end, and I like that a lot. More of like a wildcat guy. I could get out on like a jet pass, but like I'm the one on the sweep. throwing the ball, just like a bunch of weird stuff. 9-man football, you got a lot more field because you got 4 less people. So although it is a little bit slower, it's a lot of fun. And being a running back and quarterback and linebacker, I got the chance to see the field a little bit more, like from a game standpoint, understanding football. But yeah, it definitely held me back whenever I got to South Dakota State, and I had no idea what was going on. It was a completely new game, and I didn't pick up that playbook until I didn't understand all the concepts again until probably November, December of my redshirt freshman year. But my recruitment process was pretty fast, maybe a little odd to some too. It was like a 2-week process, and then that was it. I wasn't recruited at all, and then I went to a camp, and then I got about all the attention from every coach in the Division II conference that we have it in, like around South Dakota, Minnesota, and Iowa, the Northern Sun Intercollegiate Conference. And then we had, and then Coach Stig, he called me and he offered me like 2 or 3 days after the camp. So it was just like South Dakota State's prospect camp. And then I went to another camp, and that was pretty much it. I committed the next week. I was the first commit in my class. I was just so excited. And then after that, I started getting some attention from FBS schools. I went on an unofficial at Iowa State. I was expecting to kind of get a scholarship there, but the guy that they were going to offer me, he decided to stay and not leave for the draft. So I just stayed with South Dakota State. But I had a large decision to make with Wyoming. They had offered me. I was on my way back home from a volleyball game. I pick up the phone, and Coach Bull's calling me. He's telling me that they're going to offer me a full ride. So I was pretty ecstatic about that too. I went on a visit out there, and I actually unofficially decommitted and then committed to Wyoming in the process. And I was oohed and awed by their facilities, and they really had it going on out there. I liked it a lot. But then ultimately I chose to stay home, South Dakota State, just a better chance to be with my family, have them be able to come see my games, things like that. But a very, very short process. Yeah, since then I've been a Jack.
I love it, man. I love it. And I'm like messing with the lights in here, and the lights are flicking off, and it's being really odd. Change the cameras. Sorry about that if that distracted you for a second. But yeah, I know. I've actually been to Wyoming before, and it's beautiful, man. So I don't blame you for, obviously taking a look out there. I love that. I love like the Wyoming, Idaho, Montana type of area. It's really beautiful out there. But obviously it is worked out very well for you, to say the least, obviously with the season that you just had and the success that you guys have had over the last couple of years. Tucker, I want to kind of ask you, because I want to get into the breakout year you just had coming off of the spring. I know you're a part of a really nice tight end tandem as well with Zach Hines, who's a really good tight end in his own right. But can you talk to me just a little bit about the offensive talent for a second? Because I know there's a lot of talent on that defense as well. Like Gardner, I know just got signed to a NFL contract, and Logan Backus was a really good player, obviously at the linebacker position. But can you talk to me about this? You mentioned Gronowski goes down. You're able to get Oladokun in, who gets drafted to the NFL. Pierre Strong Jr. is a running back for you guys that gets drafted in the 4th round. Isaiah Davis coming back, who could maybe be higher drafted someday than Pierre because he's so talented in his own right. The Yankee twins, Aaron Johnson's playing in the NFL. I'm a big fan of Garrett Greenfield that you guys now have at right tackle, moving over to left tackle. Mason McCormick is another offensive lineman who's a really good player. Just a crazy amount of talent on this offense. What's it like to be a part of this unit, man? And I would argue that there's a lot of FBS teams that do not have as much talent as you guys have offensively.
Yeah, I would have to go ahead and agree with you. And I would say, I've heard this before, but I also like to put it in my own words. I believe that you can get guys in the FCS level, and you can just continue to get like real coaching that the coaches believe in their players and they want to push them, and there's passion and there's drive. Versus at the FBS level, I feel like more or less guys at that level are more of a number. Things are really, really believed in as a business in the FBS level, and especially coaching. Like to get a job at a high coaching level, like such as like in Alabama, you have to like know someone who knows someone to even get that application in. So I believe that coaches at the FCS level have like a better understanding for athletes per se. Could be completely biased because I've only ever played at the FCS level, but that's my own right, I guess. But yeah, I think our success really just starts outside of or off the field. We really we get to know each other a lot. We do skull sessions. We have a mental strength coach. We really dive deep into each other's personal lives, and then with that, we know each other's whys. We know how we operate. Like we went as far as learning each other's love languages, like quality time, like getting to know guys, words of affirmation, like physical touch. Like if I'm having a bad time, like some guy coming up and stopping me on the butt or something, telling me next play, keep your head up. Like it's not like not that big of a deal.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely we learn to hold each other accountable off the field. And then even in the weight room, like there's a lot of times like this summer, I was excited, like not for 7-on-7, but to get in that hot, dingy weight room and go crazy with my teammates. There was and I had opportunities this summer where I broke multiple strength records for the tight ends, and then set a program record in the power clean, things like that. It's just like you get your guys around you and they're coaching you up and they're yelling for you. It's just as fun as it is when you got your helmet, shoulder pads, straps on, you're ready to roll. But yeah, the grind, as you were saying earlier, it really started this summer for me. And then going into this fall, I didn't know that I was going to have this kind of a fall. It just kind of started happening. I guess I just kept scaffolding off of it and making myself more opportunities by pushing myself further and further and further. But it really probably happened in the fall camp that I had. I had a good fall camp. I would start running these not crazy routes that receivers would primarily run, but I would do it and burn linebackers and DBs and corners. And I started working on like the little things, like my arm over release, my breakdown push by, things like that, and learn how to get away with using less force and be smoother in the pass game. And then in the run game, it really just came down to me taking my first 2 steps correctly, launching my hands, and then just trying to drive the guy that I'm blocking into the ground. Just I'm someone who really doesn't let up until the echo of the whistle. And that's something I take a lot of pride in. I like being nasty. I like having grit. And I like putting that stuff on film because guys like you also love it.
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah. And it's fun. You can overpower a grown ass man. Sorry.
No, you're fine. No. This is a completely rated R podcast. You can say whatever you like, best friend.
Yeah. Just taking a guy against his will and putting him into the ground, and he can't do anything about it. Like there's something about that just makes you swell with pride. But yeah, so we get to Colorado State. I have like 5 receptions and I don't know, like less than 100 yards, but I had a great game, and I had the chance to also watch Trey McBride. And I thought, wow, this guy's the real deal. I'm gonna try to simulate some of the things that I saw him do and be better because of it. So that's something that also made me better, was watching a lot of film on guys that I believed were next level talent, not just like in my own time, but like also with my coaches. Like we pull up our huddle and we got NFL film for days. Like we got the Chiefs and the Niners, and that's 2 of the best tight ends in the league right there. And then granted, we have a huddle library filled with just Dallas Goedert film that I've watched over and over and over again. He's arguably one of the best tight ends in the league to the PFF. So, and that's something that's great too, because he's also scaffolding the way for FCS players in the league. He's like the 3rd, 2nd highest paid tight end in the league right now, and he does it he's not getting paid for no reason.
Yep.
He's a very talented athlete. But so yeah, we started Colorado State, 5 receptions, less than 100 yards. I saw Trey McBride. I thought, wow, this guy's a real deal. And I just started playing more aggressively and with more passion. And, the coaches found a way to put me in the game. And oftentimes it was always for success. They wouldn't throw the ball to someone or make a play around someone who wasn't going to succeed. And I believe that I also had that confidence. Like I say things with confidence. I carry myself with confidence. So I think that also creates opportunities for me. But
yeah, no, absolutely. And I love that you mentioned Dallas Goedert. I love that you mentioned Trey McBride, because obviously I was a big fan of Trey this year. I thought he was a little underdrafted. I mean, he went in the second round, but I thought he was going to be like a high second rounder type of player. You mentioned Dallas Goedert. Can you talk to me a little bit about like maybe expanding on that a little bit? Because like you said, obviously Goddard was a fantastic play for South Dakota State. A part of the pipeline now, obviously you are, and you could be the next guy that maybe, takes that mantle to the NFL and maybe creates like this tight end pipeline that continues to go through. Can you just talk to me about maybe the excitement to being the next guy after Dallas and continuing that great tradition of tight end play at the university?
Yeah, I mean, really, it all started with him. He's a good recruiting ploy. They're gonna bring tight ends in on visits, and they're gonna say, "Hey, like Dallas Goedert, you ever heard of him?" And of course, yes, I have heard of him. And they're gonna say, "Yeah, we love throwing the ball to tight ends. You come here, we're gonna throw the ball to you." Like that's you get a kid from point A to point B pretty fast, and you get them there excited because we do have a great tight end tradition. I had 65 receptions, and I was a leading receiver on the team until like week 8 or something like that. It wasn't because I was playing bad either. It's because we also have like 2 of the best receivers in the Missouri Valley in
Sure
FCS
do.
football. So yeah, I love this team, and I love the capabilities we have on a much larger scale than like people. I've had people say to me like, "You play at South Dakota State? Oh, it's not real Division I football." And I'm just like, to each their own, I guess. But I didn't reach across any kind of table and slap them in the face, but I did feel disrespected, and a lot of guys in the FCS level transfer up, and because of NIL, that's a topic for scrutiny as well. And I've been approached by very, very big schools that were in need of tight ends and offering you NIL deals from collectives that total 6 figures, and it's crazy. And I'm not receiving any kind of compensation from South Dakota State or NIL from South Dakota State that would beat that out. But my pride in putting on the yellow and blue does that on its own. And my pride of saying Tucker Kraft, South Dakota State, when my name's flashing across the bottom of a screen someday, is going to set me apart from someone else, because I'm building those opportunities for myself and for guys after me. Absolutely. And it really all started with guys in front of us too. So Christian Roseboom, he just won a Super Bowl with the Rams.
Yep.
And he did it by working his tail off. And Dallas Goedert was a 2nd-round draft pick, and Jordan Brown plays corner in the league, and the list just keeps going. We had Jim Langer and Adam Timmer, like we got like legends in the NFL as well. So
yep.
But yeah, those knowing your culture, I'd say, and being a part of the traditions of South Dakota State, that'll set people apart from me just being like a normal kid trying to pursue draft dreams.
Yeah. Well, and I love that the draft pipeline is continued, because I mean, you just mentioned a guy, like I'm a Rams fan, so I grew up with Adam Timmerman. He was one of my favorite players kind of growing up, and I was like, people are like, "Oh, South Dakota State." I'm like, "Oh no, Adam Timmerman went there, man. Don't underestimate, obviously, what the Jacks have been kind of putting out." But Tucker, I really appreciate the time. Kind of the last thing I wanted to talk to you a little bit about is obviously the season you just had: 65 catches, 780 yards, ton of touchdowns, great season. I know you guys obviously have even higher expectations going into next fall. But I want to just ask you briefly about the possibility that you have to being an NFL player a little bit. I know it's something that you probably haven't, pushed your mind ahead too far, because you want to obviously enjoy the rest of your college career, whether it is 2023 NFL draft, 2024 NFL draft. I don't know exactly. I can't tell the future, obviously. But can you just speak maybe for a minute about just the possibility that you have? Because you mentioned big breakout year. You're a worker. I've heard the interview that you had where you were talking, obviously, and you mentioned it here about the weight room aspect of everything, how much you want to improve. Obviously, you can continue to be the best version of yourself. But talk to me about the potential to maybe someday play professional football and how much of a blessing that would be whenever that ultimately does come to fruition for you.
Yeah, I guess it is a dream of mine, and it would be awesome if I could come out next season, but I'm not banking on that. I want to have a year that precedes last, but even better. And that would push me over the edge. That would send me to my dream essentially. But at the moment, I'd be lying if I said like I wasn't being lit up by guys who want to manage me. And I've created a list. I have a top 3. I have like guys like financial advisors lined up, lawyers ready to look over documents and things like that. But ultimately, I just want to do what's best for me and my family. My dad, he had a shot in the league, but he wasn't there health wise. So that's one thing that I like to pick up where he left off was I want to be my father's son. I want to pursue league dreams. I want to do great things for my family and my community and my friends, but I want to take care of my body. So if at the end of the season that I'm pretty banged up and I don't think that I could compete combine wise, then I'm just going to push for my second year. I'm not going to take that chance, especially because I'm in an offense that is not oriented around me, but I am a centerpiece.
Sure.
So I love playing football here, and I love the fan base, even though it's not as large as some stages. It's still really, really nice to feel secluded at times. But yeah, next year is the plan coming out, but I'm not banking on it.
Gotcha. Well, I know whenever it does happen, you're a tight end that obviously has a chance to play a long time in the NFL. I know I've been very impressed. I'll say this, man. I watched Michael Mayer early on, right, from Notre Dame, and then I watched yours, and I'm like, man, these guys are kind of similar. Like, some people are going to underrate you, I think, a little bit because of the level, but the talent is certainly there. Again, joined by Tucker Kraft, star tight end out of South Dakota State. Whether it is 2023 NFL Draft or 2024, he's a guy that you need to keep an eye on. And if you're just a college football fan out there listening, you should definitely check out the South Dakota State team. Isaiah Davis coming back, Mark Gronowski at quarterback, the Yankee twins at receiver. There's a lot of talents coming back. The offensive line is going to be fantastic again. So they're going to, I think, push for a national championship next year. Tucker, appreciate this again, man. This was fantastic. Getting a little background to story to everything that you have going on there, man. Big fan of your game, and thank you so much for joining the show today.
Thank you.